Shanghai has been unveiling a series of measures to keep the local housing market stable, and in fact new home prices in Shanghai remain nearly unchanged in February. Where's the property market heading though? I spoke earlier with James MacDonald, Head of Research at Savills China. James MacDonald, welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you doing?
Great to have you here. So Shanghai has been imposing some tougher policies to try and keep a lid on property prices, keep the industry stable and healthy seems to be the buzzwords.
Yep.
It has shown some signs of overheating, but among those measures, what have you seen that you think has been the most effective?
I mean, effective is, it's questionable. I mean, a lot of the policies are not going to have effect in the short term, but it's about more correcting the long term sort of imbalances within the market. So I think it's quite early to say whether they're effective or not. But I think what some of the policies I saw, the most important ones are the ones that actually close the loopholes which enable people to buy property when they shouldn't be allowed to buy properties.
How are the new regulations that we've seen here in Shanghai are really going to affect housing prices? Is there any chance of housing prices moderating or coming down even?
Well, I don't think the authorities want prices to come down. I think they just want them to remain stable, such that you see an increase in terms of disposable incomes and therefore an increase in affordability from that perspective. Again, some of these policies are short-term, some of the more long-term structural changes, such as increasing land supply to the residential market, or say these long-term master planning goals, such as, again, not necessarily specifically to the residential market, but things like the 5 new cities, which was announced just a couple of weeks ago. The idea that you try and remove pressure from the city centre to create new job opportunities in the sort of the outskirts of Shanghai, and therefore redistribute some of the pressure that's on the residential stock in the city centre to these more suburban locations where pricing is much more affordable.
And in the longer term, if we do see, the property market maintain stability or perhaps even cool off a little bit, what effect are we going to see, do you think, on economic growth? Is it going to have an impact there?
The impact on the economic growth is not specifically coming from Shanghai, it's obviously coming from the whole of the China market. And I think there's a number of other policies and objectives that the Chinese government is trying to achieve on that. So things like de-risking developer financing, so there's been the 3 red lines which was introduced last year, things like mortgage lending to the home buyers and also to developers as well. So I think those ones are going to have a much more significant impact in terms of the overall state of the real estate market than specifically the policies relating to the Shanghai market, which is, after all, one city out of a whole country.
If the program for, say, the satellite cities works, surely we could see a boost in economic growth and housing affordability at the same time.
Properties are not for speculation but for living. And I don't think that anybody's really specifically looking at the real estate market to spur economic growth. It's been great that it performed so well because it gave that boost to the economy. But I think a lot of the policy objectives of what the government's actually looking at is to stimulate the real economy. Things like sustainability, so investment in terms of new infrastructure, investment in terms of new power plants, and all that, and domestic consumption as well, which is incredibly important. So I think all of that will, if there is a slowdown or if there's a drag on the economy from the property market, that some of these other sectors of the economy will actually start to pick up and continue to see more economic growth going forwards, and that will offset any slowdown we see in the property market.
They'll pick up the slack.
Yes, they'll pick up the slack.
James MacDonald, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, great.